The inheritance arrived on a quiet Tuesday in late autumn. Elena Voss received the notification at 9:47 a.m. via a secure email from the law firm handling her uncle's estate. Her uncle, Marcus Hale, a reclusive engineer who had never married and lived alone in a modest house on the outskirts of Willow Creek, Montana, had passed 3 weeks earlier from natural causes. In his will, drafted quietly years ago, he left the bulk of his assets, nearly $2 million in savings, investments, and the proceeds from selling patented designs, to his only niece. Elena, 38, had barely spoken to him in a decade, but the money was hers now, uncontested. She sat at the kitchen table of her 2-story home in Willow Creek, staring at the screen. The house overlooked a narrow valley where the river ran slow and silver in the mornings. Her husband, Daniel Voss, was already at work by then, managing the local branch of a regional bank. They had been married 12 years. No children. A comfortable but unremarkable life built on steady routines, weekend hikes, shared dinners, occasional trips to the city. Daniel had always handled the finances with careful precision. Elena worked part-time as a graphic designer from home, content to let him manage the accounts. The inheritance felt like a sudden shift in gravity. By noon she had printed the documents and placed them in a folder on the dining table. When Daniel came home that evening, she showed him. He read the pages slowly, his expression calm, almost clinical. $2 million, he said, setting the folder down. That's life-changing. Elena nodded. I want to do something meaningful with part of it. Maybe a foundation for engineering scholarships in Uncle Marcus's name. Or help with the community center rebuild. Daniel smiled faintly. We should think carefully. Investments first. Security. They ate dinner in near silence. Elena noticed how he kept glancing at the folder, as though measuring its weight. The next morning, Wednesday, Elena woke to find Daniel already gone. A note on the counter, early meeting. Love you. Talk tonight. She felt a flicker of unease but dismissed it. The inheritance had stirred something restless in her. She drove to the bank to open a separate account, one in her name only. The teller, a young woman named Sarah, helped her transfer the initial funds. Elena left with a sense of quiet control. Daniel spent that day in his office reviewing loan portfolios and client files. He was respected at the bank, reliable, detail-oriented, never missed a deadline. Colleagues described him as steady, the kind of man who planned 10 steps ahead. But beneath that composure lay a growing calculation. The money belonged to Elena, yes, but in his mind, their marriage made it shared. 12 years of supporting her career, paying the mortgage, handling repairs, he had earned a stake. If something happened to her, the assets would pass to him as next of kin. No will existed yet. He had checked. That evening, he suggested they celebrate. A bottle of wine, her favorite pasta. Elena relaxed. They talked about possible trips, a house renovation, early retirement. Daniel listened attentively, refilling her glass. Around 10 p.m., she felt unusually drowsy. Must be the excitement, she murmured, heading to bed early. Thursday dawned cold and gray. Elena woke with a headache that pulsed behind her eyes. Her limbs felt heavy, as though filled with sand. She tried to stand and the room tilted. Daniel was already dressed, standing at the bedroom door with coffee. You okay? He asked. Just tired, she said. Maybe coming down with something. He suggested she rest. He would handle errands. Before leaving, he placed a small glass of orange juice on the nightstand. Hydrate, he said gently. She drank it slowly. The taste was slightly bitter, but she attributed it to the cold starting. By midday the symptoms worsened, nausea, blurred vision, a tightness in her chest. She called Daniel. No answer. She texted. Nothing. Panic edged in. She managed to dial emergency services, but her words slurred. The operator asked her to stay on the line. The ambulance arrived at 1:22 p.m. Paramedics found Elena on the living room floor, barely conscious, pulse weak and irregular. They rushed her to Willow Creek Regional Hospital. Initial tests showed dangerously low blood pressure, abnormal heart rhythm, and signs of severe toxicity. Doctors suspected poisoning, possibly a substance interfering with cardiac function. They administered supportive care, 4 fluids, activated charcoal, monitoring in the ICU. Daniel arrived at the hospital at 2:45 p.m., face pale, voice shaking. "What happened?" he asked the doctor. "She was fine this morning." The attending physician, Dr. Mara Ellison, explained the situation carefully. "We're running toxicology screens. It looks like ingestion of something toxic, possibly over the last 24 hours. She's stable but critical." Daniel sat in the waiting area, hands clasped tightly. He appeared devastated. Nurses noted how he paced, checked his phone repeatedly, asked for updates every few minutes. To them, he was the concerned husband. But Elena, drifting in and out of awareness in her hospital bed, remembered fragments: the orange juice, the wine the night before, the way Daniel had watched her drink. She also remembered a conversation 2 months earlier, when he had casually mentioned a policy he had taken out, additional life insurance, just in case. She had laughed it off. Now the memory felt sharper. The toxicology report came back late Thursday night. Traces of digoxin, a heart medication derived from foxglove, were present in Elena's system. Not a therapeutic dose. Far higher. Digoxin toxicity could mimic a natural cardiac event: arrhythmia, vomiting, confusion, collapse. In small, repeated doses, it could build slowly. In a larger single dose, it could kill within hours. Elena had received both: cumulative exposure over days, then a final push. Police were notified immediately. Detective Liam Carver of the Willow Creek PD arrived at the hospital around midnight. He interviewed Daniel in a quiet consultation room. "Mr. Voss, can you walk me through the last few days?" Daniel spoke evenly. "She got the inheritance news Tuesday. We celebrated Wednesday night. Thursday morning she wasn't feeling well. I went to work. Came home to find the ambulance already there." Carver noted the timeline. "Any medications in the house? Heart pills, anything like that?" Daniel shook his head. "None. Elena's healthy. No prescriptions." Carver asked about the inheritance. Daniel confirmed the amount, said it was Elena's alone. "We were going to plan together," he added. Meanwhile, hospital staff secured Elena's belongings. In her purse they found a small notebook where she had jotted thoughts about the money, future plans, and one line, dated Wednesday: "Daniel seems distant. Asked about separate accounts. Felt off." Friday morning, 72 hours after the inheritance notification, Elena's condition stabilized. The antidote, digoxin-specific antibody fragments, arrived by emergency transport from the city. Doctors administered it carefully. Her heart rhythm began to normalize. She regained consciousness around 10 a.m. Detective Carver returned. Elena, weak but lucid, gave a statement. She described the juice, the wine, Daniel's attentiveness to her drinking. She mentioned the insurance policy he had shown her months ago: $1.5 million payout on her death, double indemnity for accident. She had forgotten until now. Carver obtained a search warrant for the Voss home. Inside, investigators found a bottle of digoxin tablets hidden in the back of Daniel's workshop toolbox. The prescription label was for a patient long deceased, Daniel's father, who had died of heart failure 4 years earlier. Daniel had kept the remaining pills, never disposed of them. Lab analysis later matched the compound to Elena's blood levels. Daniel was brought in for questioning Friday afternoon. Confronted with the evidence, he initially denied everything. Then, quietly, he asked for a lawyer. The case unfolded methodically. Prosecutors built a timeline. Daniel had begun researching digoxin toxicity online 6 weeks earlier, using private browsing on his laptop. Security footage from a pharmacy in the next county showed him purchasing over-the-counter remedies that could mask early symptoms. Bank records revealed he had inquired about accelerating the insurance claim process in hypothetical scenarios. But the strongest evidence came from Elena herself. In recovery, she recalled overhearing Daniel on a call the week before the inheritance. "If something happens soon, it changes everything." He had thought she was asleep. Daniel's plan had been simple in its cruelty. Gradual dosing to simulate illness, then a final, lethal amount in the juice. A heart attack in a seemingly healthy woman, tragic, but not suspicious. The inheritance would flow to him. He would grieve publicly, collect the insurance, move on. He had convinced himself it was fair recompense for years of quiet sacrifice. He had not counted on Elena's resilience, or her decision to open a separate account, which prompted her to drink less of the celebratory wine and notice the odd taste in the juice. 72 hours after the inheritance email, Elena lay in the ICU fighting for her life. Daniel sat in an interrogation room, believing the plan had worked. He pictured the money secured, the houses alone, a new start. He thought he had succeeded. He had not. Elena survived. The digoxin was neutralized. Her heart recovered. Within weeks she walked out of the hospital on her own. The charges against Daniel, attempted first-degree murder, poisoning, were filed swiftly. Evidence was overwhelming. Trial preparations began. In the months that followed, Elena used the inheritance exactly as she had planned. She established the Marcus Hale Engineering Fund, granting scholarships to students from small towns like Willow Creek. She renovated the community center. She moved to a smaller house nearer the river. She never remarried. Daniel was convicted after a 3-week trial. Sentenced to 28 years. He served his time quietly, rarely speaking of the case. The valley remained the same. The river ran slow, the mornings silver. But in Willow Creek, people remembered. A sudden windfall. A husband's quiet calculation. A woman's fight to live. And how, in the end, the money meant nothing compared to the simple act of breathing another day.